Welcome back to the Crypto channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin is sitting on the edge of potentially a major breakout towards the upside, as we now have less than 24 hours to go until the next Fed meeting, where we are about to see interest rate cuts for the first time in a long time. Big deal for the financial markets, as more liquidity is continuing to build above the price of Bitcoin, which we need to pay attention to. And one of the reasons as to why I'm still currently longing the price of Bitcoin. So in just a moment, I'll be sharing my exact trading strategy, revealing with you exactly how I'm planning to make a lot of profits with this upcoming Fed meeting happening in less than 24 hours from now, with a possible short squeeze on the horizon, while Ethereum is still struggling around this major area on the price chart, and Solana is now successfully retesting this key Fibonacci level. So I'll be talking about all of that and so much more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before taking a look at the Bitcoin and crypto charts today, we need to talk about the upcoming FOMC meeting, also known as a Fed meeting, because in less than 24 hours from now, it's extremely likely we are about to see an interest rate cut. And so we can see here on Trading Economics that the next interest rate decision from the Federal Reserve, where the Federal Reserve announces the new interest rate or Fed funds rate, will come out on the 17th of September, 6 p.m. GMT. So you could use that to work out with your own time zone, but basically, this is when the Fed rate decision is. And as always, I will be keeping you up to date over on my Twitter account, or X, link below this video, if you want real-time updates like this information as soon as it gets released. And the current Fed funds rate on the high end of the target is sitting at 4.5%, so 450 basis points. And currently, expectations are sitting at 4.25% for the new interest rate or new Fed funds rate. So basically suggesting a 25 basis point rate cut, or reducing interest rates by 0.25% with tomorrow's FOMC meeting. And if we're looking at what the futures market is actually pricing in right now for this upcoming Fed meeting, once again, currently the target rate for the Fed funds rate is 425 to 450 basis points. Basically 4.5% on the high end is the current rate. And we can see that right now the market is pricing in a 96% probability of a 25 basis point rate cut. So reducing interest rates by 0.25%. Once again, market is saying 96% chance of that happening, and a 4% chance of reducing interest rates by 0.5%, 50 basis points with tomorrow's Fed meeting. And so in other words, the entire 25 basis point rate cut has now been completely priced into the market, and some of the market even going further than pricing in just a 25 basis point rate cut, and actually starting to price in at least a little bit a 50 basis point rate cut. And so what this means is, if we ultimately see the 25 basis point rate cut, which is extremely likely, that's the most likely outcome, that should be relatively neutral for markets. Of course, we'll see a little bit of short-term volatility, but it's unlikely we'll see a massive bullish or massive bearish move based on a 25 basis point rate cut, considering that's pretty much what everyone is expecting and already pricing into the market. But if we see anything other than a 25 basis point rate cut tomorrow, that would likely cause a very volatile move, a major move in the market, if we see any outcome that is not a 25 basis point rate cut. So in other words, if we see no change in rates, or if we actually end up seeing that 50 basis point rate cut, we'll likely see a massive move. And in case you're new to all of this, all you really need to know when it comes to interest rates is the lower interest rates are, the easier it is to borrow money. So essentially that stimulates the economy. It floods markets with more cheap money, because in case you didn't already know, the current banking system as it stands is a fractional reserve banking system, which basically means if you go and get a loan from a bank to buy a house or whatever, essentially the bank actually doesn't have that money at all, maybe just a small portion of that money in reserves, but most of the money that they're lending out is actually printed out of thin air. And so in other words, when interest rates get lowered, it essentially makes it easier for people to borrow money, which basically means it's easier for banks to print money out of thin air, which is where money comes from lending activity. And so in simple words, lower interest rates are very bullish for markets. It pumps markets towards the upside, but bad if you're holding onto dollars. And higher interest rates, better if you're holding onto dollars in a savings account, for example, but not good for markets if we have higher interest rates. And so with that in mind, if we see a much larger interest rate cut, reducing interest rates more than what was expected, so a 50 basis point cut, that would be extremely bullish for markets. But if we see no change in rates, so if we do not see the 25 basis point rate cut or any rate cut tomorrow, that would be very bearish for markets, at least initially. And also about half an hour after we get the interest rate decision, after the interest rate actually gets released, about half an hour after that, we see the Jerome Powell press conference where essentially the boss of the Federal Reserve talks about potential upcoming rate decisions at future Fed meetings. So that can also influence the market just in the short term, roughly half an hour following this rate decision tomorrow. And so overall, honestly, just expect a bit of short-term volatility over the next 24 hours, especially as this is happening here. And once again, as always, I will be keeping you up to date in real time the moment this information gets released over on my Twitter account or X. Once again, link below this video if you want to stay up to date while this is happening. But with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin charts today, and here on the weekly time frame, the super trend indicator is still sitting in the green, indicating a larger bull market. And on this weekly Bitcoin price chart, technically we still have a massive bearish divergence to watch out for, which has not yet been invalidated. But looking at this 3-day Bitcoin price chart, obviously we're now getting very close to a potential bullish crossover in the 3-day Bitcoin MACD. And so obviously I've already been talking about this every day over the last couple of weeks now. Basically, since all the way back down here, I've been saying we're now starting to gain a little bit of bullish momentum in the short term. So overall, expect a continued short-term bullish relief or bullish recovery in the short term as a very likely outcome. And overall, this is just simply continuing, as we could see. And if we're taking a look at this daily Bitcoin price chart, we could see obviously the price is continuing to bounce from this exact area of support that I've been talking about since before we perfectly bounced from that area, sitting in between around 106.7K to 107.6K. And I'd also expect support at just above 110,000 if the price were to get back down there. More support at around 113,000 and 113.5K as well. And as for resistance, we're basically coming into a major point right here at give or take 117,000. But if we can ideally confirm a breakout above 117,000 with candle closes above that level and actually holding above 117K, in that situation, the next major target, the next potential point of resistance to watch out for based on previous price action is this level right here, sitting at pretty much exactly $120,000 per Bitcoin. And then above 120K, I'd be targeting basically the all-time high at close to 124,000. And if we're zooming further into the short term, taking a look at the 4-hour Bitcoin price chart, it's clear that at least for now, we're still within a short-term bullish trend, still technically forming higher lows and higher highs, at least as of right now. But obviously, as I've been saying every day since before we actually rejected all the way back here, I've been saying watch out for this key level on the price chart here, which will likely basically prevent the price from going any higher, at least in the short term, and expect a lot of struggle around this exact level. Once again, I've been saying that every day since before we hit this exact level and started to struggle as predicted. And in case you're new to the channel, once again, this level that I'm talking about is at approximately 117,000. So that is still a crucial level of resistance to watch out for. But the price, as of recording this video, is getting closer towards a possible breakout here. Now, obviously, we've not yet confirmed a breakout, but we are getting potentially very close. And also something to point out is that we are possibly forming a new bearish divergence on the 4-hour time frame. Not confirmed. I want to make that clear, but it's just possibly forming, as the price is possibly forming some higher highs here, especially if we confirm a stronger higher high like this. And while the RSI is still forming lower highs, obviously that is a bearish divergence forming. But once again, I want to make it clear that is not yet confirmed. And if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map here on the 2-week time frame, looking at the last 2 weeks worth of price action, we can see that right now the price of Bitcoin, as of recording this video, is pretty much taking out this liquidity at close to 117,000, in between between around 116.8k to 117,000 approximately, which is the area that I've been targeting over the last 1 to 2 days. And so it was thanks to this area of liquidity in the Bitcoin liquidation heat map that helped me perfectly predict this latest short-term bullish move. Obviously, if you watched my last video here on the channel right just yesterday when the price was at approximately 115,000, I said over the next 1 or 2 days in the short term, it's extremely likely that we're going to see another short-term bullish move to retest close to 117,000 to basically retest this resistance and start to take out this liquidity. Once again, I said that yesterday when the price was at close to 115,000, give or take, and it has perfectly played out, as we could see, as predicted. But if we're taking another look at that Bitcoin liquidation heat map, and if we're actually zooming out to look at the last 1 month worth of price action, we could see a significant amount of liquidity building above the price, just above the price here, sitting at mostly around 118,000. But it's really a larger area in between around 117.5k to just above 119,000 in that major area right there. So once again, approximately 118,000, give or take. We have a lot of liquidity building right there, which means it is quite likely we could hit close to 118,000 very soon. That is the next prediction. But remember, tomorrow we have that interest rate decision from the Federal Reserve, which can affect the markets in the short term, depending on the outcome of that decision. So keep that in mind. But overall, I'm still long on the price of Bitcoin, as I've been saying for a while now on the channel. Obviously, we're still in a short-term bullish trend, so it does make sense to at least remain long on Bitcoin while we're in a bullish trend. And so over the last 1 day, I've really made no new changes to this position. As you can see right here, my Bitcoin long position over on my BTNex account is still around a $100,000 Bitcoin long position, about $3,500 USD in unrealized profits, and roughly $4,500 in USD in realized secured profits here, as I did previously take some profits from this trade, just slightly reducing the size of the trade at this resistance here, but not closing the entire position. And also over the last 1 day, I've really not touched this trade over on my 2bit account. So once again, I'm still also in a $100,000 Bitcoin long position over on my 2bit account, around $2,500 USD in unrealized profits. And my stop losses for both of these trades right here on BTNex and 2bit are sitting in some slight profits above my entry, so that even in the worst case scenario, if the price just crashed for whatever reason, that would hit the stop loss at these levels and automatically close the trade at those levels in some slight profits. And you can notice that the funding rates over on 2bit right now for the Bitcoin trading pair, Bitcoin to USDT on the futures market over on 2bit, funding rates as of recording this video are exactly 0, which basically means I'm paying nothing to stay in this long position here. And if anything, if this flips further negative, I'm actually earning fees. That's right, I'm not paying fees, I'm earning funding fees as passive income just by holding this long position open if the funding rates go further negative. And so we're potentially getting closer towards some sort of short squeeze, considering how low the funding rates are, and also considering this very significant area of liquidity above the price, which is basically a bunch of short positions that would get liquidated if the price hits that area. So obviously that could potentially cause a bit of short-term bullish price action. So overall, I'm still long on Bitcoin. That is my trading strategy. And another possible take profit point for these trades right here would be, of course, if we break out above 117,000 with confirmation and then head up towards roughly 120,000 and start to struggle a little bit at give or take 120,000, that could be another little take profit point, not necessarily closing the entire trade, but just slightly reducing the size of the trade to secure a bit more profits. And so that is my trading strategy. That is my plan to continue to profit from this short-term bullish trend and leading into this upcoming interest rate cut tomorrow with this next Fed meeting. And obviously, if you want to trade these moves like what I'm doing right now to easily profit in the crypto market, you have to be set up ready to go on a crypto exchange. And personally, I'm taking this trade right here over on BTNex. So I'll make sure to leave a link to BTNex below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, you can get massive trading and deposit bonuses. For example, up to 25,000 USDT in trading bonuses. So free money from the exchange just simply by trading crypto using that link. And in case you're wondering, BTNex is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And once again, if you don't want BitNex as an exchange, the other Bitcoin long position, which I'm currently in right now, is over on my 2bit account. So I'll also make sure to leave a link to 2bit below this video. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can also claim massive trading and deposit bonuses. And so simply just by trading crypto using that link below this video to 2bit, you can claim up to 10,000 USDT in trial fund bonuses and also 8,000 USDT in actual withdrawable USDT. So basically free money from the exchange just by trading crypto. And on top of that, if you simply make an account using the link below this video to 2bit, the second link below this video, without even making any deposit or anything, simply making an account, no KYC required, you get a free $30 bonus onto your account, free money from the exchange, and 1 month free VIP3 upgrade on your account. So basically very low trading fees for an entire month and free money from the exchange without even doing any deposit or anything. No KYC. Once again, that second link below this video to 2bit. And there's also deposit bonuses and other bonuses here. A bunch of free money from the exchange just simply by using that link. But if you don't use the link below this video, you can't claim any of these major bonuses here. And in case you're wondering, yes, 2bit is also a no KYC exchange. But with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin dominance chart on the 3-day time frame, and like I talked about in my last video, we're potentially starting to form a bit of a short-term bullish divergence in the Bitcoin dominance. As we can see, clear lower lows in the price in the Bitcoin dominance in the candle closes, and some very slight higher lows starting to form and possibly starting to now confirm in the RSI on the 3-day time frame. And so especially if this further confirms with this next 3-day candle close here in a little over 2 days from now, obviously this could potentially result in a little bit more of a short-term bullish relief. Not necessarily a massive bullish move like this, but potentially something like this could be a likely outcome if this bullish divergence further confirms in the coming days here. And so that could be a possible short-term warning signal for some of the altcoin market. Obviously not every altcoin, even if the Bitcoin dominance has a slight bounce. Of course, some altcoins can still do pretty well, but some of the major altcoins like Ethereum, etc., might be underperforming Bitcoin, so doing a little bit worse than what Bitcoin is doing. So not necessarily crashing or anything, but let's just say if Bitcoin has a pump, Ethereum might pump, but maybe not as much as Bitcoin if the Bitcoin dominance plays out a little bit more of a short-term bullish relief, if this bullish divergence further confirms in the Bitcoin dominance. But with that being said, taking a look at Ethereum on the 3-day time frame, and right now Ethereum is still bouncing around in the same sideways price range I've been talking about for weeks now on the channel, in between this support and this resistance. First of all, in case you're new to the channel, this area of support still sitting in between around 3.9k to 4.1k, and this area of resistance still sitting in between 4.8k to 4.9k. And so overall, not a lot has changed on this chart right here. We're still actually looking very neutral in terms of the shorter term trend or the current momentum for Ethereum. Very neutral, just bouncing around in a sideways price range. But if we're zooming into the shorter term, taking a look at the 4-hour time frame, we can see that over the last 1 day, we actually slightly confirmed a candle close below this short-term area of support here based on previous resistance flipping into new support. So obviously we saw that break to the downside, and now we're actually retesting this area. So for the bulls out there, ideally we need to now quickly reclaim this area in order to potentially avoid this further break towards the downside. So this is definitely a moment of truth, a make or break moment for Ethereum, at least just in the short term. But remember, no matter what happens here in the immediate short term, we're still in the larger sideways price range, just bouncing around sideways in this massive range here. And so taking another look at the short term, of course, we could find a little bit of resistance here at around 4480 to 4.5k. But if we ideally confirm a breakout back above 4.5k and continue to hold that as new support, in that situation, we could find a bit of short-term resistance just above that at around 4530, give or take, just above 4.5k. But if we break out above all of these levels just here, in that situation, the next major point of resistance at around 4580 and around 4630 to 4640. And as I always say, when it comes to the altcoin market right here, still pay attention to what the price of Bitcoin and also the Bitcoin dominance are doing, because for example, if we see a breakout for the price of Bitcoin, that will likely cause a breakout or more bullish price action for a lot of the altcoins. But if the Bitcoin dominance is also playing out a bit of a bullish relief while the price of Bitcoin is bullish, essentially altcoins may still play out some bullish price action, just kind of lagging behind Bitcoin a little bit. And so that is a likely scenario here in the short term for Ethereum and for a lot of altcoins. And if we're taking a look at Solana on the 2-day time frame, obviously over the last few days, we saw that confirmed breakout above this Fibonacci level sitting at around $230. And we've now since retested that level and currently finding support at that level, which is obviously very good news. This is bullish price structure, ultimately continuing the longer term bullish trends, the larger bullish price structure that I've been talking about for a long time now on the channel. And so obviously continue to expect a lot of support at around $230. But if the price actually confirmed candle closes below that level and failed to get back above that level, in that situation, the next major support that I'll be watching out for is sitting at around $215. And below that, we have major support down here in between around 190 to 200. But obviously the immediate level to watch out for is still 230. And the next significant resistance to watch out for, if we ultimately continue the larger bullish trend, that is sitting at approximately $260, really in between 260 to 265 as a major area of resistance based on these previous highs back here. And above that, I'll be targeting close to 300, around 290 to 300 if we first break out above 260 to 265. And if we're taking a look at the price of XRP on the weekly time frame, technically speaking, despite what happens in the shorter term on slightly smaller time frames, we still have a bearish divergence to watch out for, technically not yet invalidated here on the weekly XRP price chart. But with that being said, taking a look at the daily XRP price chart, and for now the price is kind of just bouncing around in a bit of a sideways price range, as we can see. And we also have a little bit of an inverse head and shoulders pattern potentially forming right now, but not yet confirmed. So that's something to watch out for in case it further confirms here, in case it continues forming and then ultimately confirms. But the key levels of support and resistance to watch out for, first of all, we have a lot of resistance just above 310, really in between around 310 to especially more recently around 313, give or take. Around these highs, expect a lot of resistance here. But if we break out past that area on the price chart, the next significant level of resistance to watch out for is sitting at just above 330, really in between 330 to 340 as a major area on the price chart, acting as strong resistance. And as for support, I would expect a lot of support at around $2.90, especially in between 285 to 290, and more support at around 275. And if we're taking a look at this daily XRP price chart, technically speaking, we're now actually bouncing from pretty much the point of the breakout here in the price of XRP for this descending triangle pattern breakout. And so even though we did see a bit of a short-term setback and we're kind of lacking bullish momentum for now, technically speaking, this breakout, this pattern, and this price target is still currently active. We've not yet confirmed an invalidation to actually invalidate this price target. So we still have a price target at just above $3.80. So obviously in new all-time highs. But as I've been saying many times here on the channel, since basically we broke out here, we cannot ignore other points of resistance, which can cause the price to struggle or possibly reject from around those points of resistance. Like for example, close to 310, just above 310 here, strong resistance. And I would also expect strong resistance at just above 330, in between 330 to 340 if the price ultimately gets there. And so that's still the situation on this daily XRP price chart. And if we're taking a look at the price of Chainlink on the daily time frame, technically we are still currently within a longer term bullish trend, larger bullish price structure, forming higher lows and higher highs. But we do have the first possible lower high starting to form right now, which would ultimately really confirm, if we confirm a break below this low right here, that'll be very bad news for Chainlink if we do not bounce before this level on the price chart, sitting at just above $22. And so really in between around $22.10 to $22.30, give or take, roughly around there on the price chart, around this previous low, that's a key area of support that we need to hold above in order to potentially remain forming this larger bullish price structure if we bounce very, very soon. Because if we do not hold this level as support, or if we do not bounce before that level and ultimately at some stage break below $22, in that situation, especially if we confirm daily candle closes below $22 and fail to get back above that level, in that situation, it would be extremely likely we'd see a move at least down towards around $19 to $20, especially around $20 as a key level on the price chart if we first confirm a break below $22. But obviously for now, we're still holding above that level, which is still some good news for the price of Chainlink. And the next point of resistance I'll be watching out for is this level right here, sitting at just above $25, around $25.20, and above that, major resistance at just under $27, around $26.70 to $27, acting as strong resistance. And for now, the price of Chainlink is kind of just lacking momentum to either direction. As we could see, we're basically just bouncing around relatively sideways, we could clearly see here. And of course, this is likely a result of the fact that Bitcoin is currently looking bullish, but while Bitcoin is playing out a bit of a bullish move here, once again, as I said earlier in the video, the Bitcoin dominance is also starting to look a little bit more bullish here in the short term, which can cause a lot of altcoins to play out relatively neutral price action, as those two things for Bitcoin and the Bitcoin dominance kind of cancel each other out. And so those are the things that I'm watching out for these crypto assets, my predictions and the key levels to watch out for, and my exact trading strategy, showing with you exactly how to make a lot of easy profits in the market like what I'm doing right now. And if you want to actually do this for yourself, once again, you have to be set up ready to go on an exchange. And if you're using the links below this video to those exchanges, you can claim massive trading and deposit bonuses that are only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how you can trade like this for yourself to make a lot of easy profits in the market, like what I'm doing right now, no matter what the price is doing, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.